knowing all this is going on and Teal is like this, and she has a young son, right? He was about 4 years old at the time you were there.
Yes.
And you ended up being his nanny most of the time, if I understand correctly, and the chauffeur in the house kind of a thing. Can you clarify that?
When I first got there, we were all kind of shifting roles and doing what they wanted. He calmed down to me at the very beginning because, for some reason, he's just very charming. He's a very sweet boy. He's like, and I don't know what it was, but he had a strange connection at the very beginning.
At least he sensed you were the least confused out of all of them. So
I'm just like one of the transient caregivers now. Unfortunately, that poor kid's had so many by now, you probably wouldn't even remember. But yeah, I did spend some time with him, and he's got a very interesting house, that's for sure. There's nothing normal in that household, so I don't know how I don't know what's gonna come of that, but
and
yeah,
so
it's a very strange situation.
What kind of relationship did you witness between Teal and her son Winter?
Well, she doesn't really like being a mom, but
didn't she make posts about how great it is to be a mom and how she gets turned on by being a mom and all these kind of things?
I haven't read any of her recent posts. I kind of quit following anything Teal related as soon as I left. But
she could have deleted it as well. Okay.
But yeah, I didn't get the sense that was the case. She's a very hands-on parent as far as that goes. She's never spent time alone with him, and I think she's admitted that in her blogs as well.
She's admitted in her blog she only sees him once a week.
But she's never been unsupervised alone with him in his life.
Okay.
So I think that she said that because she has triggered seizures, it's not an option for her. So I don't know exactly what that means, but it seems like, she likes being a parent when it's convenient.
Such as like an accessory to show him off?
Potentially, yeah. When it's fun. He did, when he would get hurt though, he would scream out, "I need a mommy," and she would usually give him one-on-one attention whenever that would happen. The poor kid was very fragile. He did have quite a few scrapes and bruises, which is pretty normal for a 3 and 4-year-old boy, but there's an incident where he fell down the stairs and broke his arm and he was found, and that was pretty horrific. He also talked pretty loud, and had fits often because I feel like he didn't feel like he was heard, is what I got, the impression that I got out of it. She just also, she's just very busy with her own things. So I don't know about that.
I guess you've witnessed quite a bit of neglect. Even you shared with me that he wasn't even potty trained, and he was 4 years old.
No, he wasn't potty trained at 4. I know that I thought that was a little strange. He would usually just bring him a diaper when he needed to be changed, and I think it was her own parenting style on that. It was interesting for me. I didn't quite understand it. She said it was love and logic type parenting that they used. So if that had anything to do with it, she said that there was something about she didn't want to do anything with potty training because she thought it was going to traumatize them.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was one explanation, but I know her parents were kind of fine working on that. I don't know if it just wasn't consistent enough for him when he was home.
Okay.
But, yeah.
You also shared that when he broke his arm, she was all about him for right afterwards, trying to comfort him and so forth, but the next day, he was crying out as well.
I just asked the question. I was like, do you think maybe he's in pain? And she kind of scoffed, and then she kind of walked to the other room and got some Tylenol, and yeah, pretty much that was the extent of it. So,
well, obviously the broken arm does not miraculously psychically recover, right after, just because mommy gives a little bit of attention. It lasts longer, so of course the kid is going to cry, and to scoff and get upset or offended by that is quite disturbing to me as well.
Luckily, he had her grandparents.
Yeah.
They were very, very, very supportive unit. And they would take him whenever they could. They moved to be close to him, and they would take him on the weekends or when she was at workshops. And so he got I don't know, he got 3 daddies living with him, a mommy and some nannies. So it's a very strange situation for him. I can only imagine what he's going to be.
He calls out, I need a mommy.
I don't know. I thought that was a strange turn of phrase myself. I don't know where he came up with it, but he's an adorable little boy, though. So something he might be. I mean, I convinced myself, part of that was, well, he knows what he's. Another damaging belief potentially was, well, he knows what he's getting into. He is protected at the soul level, but that's a pretty easy scapegoat belief. You just
your soul chose this.
Anything.
Yeah, exactly. Your soul chose this experience. You wanted that to happen. No, it's so ridiculous when you think about it a bit more. How again we promote such atrocities to go into the world. I know a girl called Lucinda Love, who is another kind of spiritual speaker, or tries to be anyway, and she ended up doing a lot of drugs with her boyfriend, called love drugs, when they were driving. I don't know if I told you the story actually. Though they were driving back and they were just really out of it and like talking on the phone and like distracting each other, and basically got in a car accident and killed a girl. And then shortly after, she ended up getting a piece of her skull torn off, and so she had to get surgery. And she had a lot of plastic surgery before, and she did modeling and all these kind of things. And anyway, shortly after she recovered, she had some friends who witnessed her kind of laughing as if nothing had happened, even though they also killed someone. They didn't show any remorse at all. Even people who knew her personally said, yeah, she just had no remorse. And anyway, shortly after that, she ended up doing a video asking for money, not mentioning that they killed somebody in a car accident. And the money ended up she's like, I need acupuncture and I need a new car and all that stuff. And because she looked attractive to people, they ended up giving her a lot of money. And when I tried to expose this, she's like, well, her soul wanted this to happen. And I was just so disturbed by this. So what, you can continue to be negligent and get away with whatever because their soul wants to have that happen? I don't think so. I think that's a way for you to escape and get away with such terrible things, all in the guise of a love and light and divine goddess, whatever. There's also a kind of a gathering of people in California that the main guy ended up killing his wife, and rather than the followers speak out and expose him, they were like, no, that was meant to be, again, the soul and da-da-da, and we just will send him love. And it's just really, really shocking and very scary. It's almost like the positivity love police. It's like a kind of creepy Twilight Zone episode, where everybody's smiling and in bliss, but nobody is thinking at all. And it's like this weird kind of a limbo way of being creepy. Yeah?
Yeah, it involves the responsibility for anybody to change. So I don't see how it's going to cause positive world change. Nobody does anything. Nobody takes action because everything is perfect. I mean, this just seems to me like more of a false sense of security and lulling you into a sleep. It seems like exactly what people that want to keep things the way they are would try to convince us to believe.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Do you need...
I'm so sorry.
Get the dog?
I need to go through something about the dog.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Reminds me of the Twilight Zone episode. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the old 60s Rod Sterling series, which I really like. The one, and Simpsons even did a spoof about it. It's A Good Life with Bart. When he had these powers, everybody had to think good, positive thoughts. Otherwise, they had tremendous fear underneath those smiles and fakeness that Bart would turn them into something or do whatever to them. The same with that Twilight Zone episode, that everybody had to be a certain way. Because, this is the thing that we don't realize, that this love and positivity, what's behind it is fear. We're afraid to lose it. If we have it, we strive for it. We don't think we're good enough if we don't have it, which is fear, fear, fear. And I don't really think people understand fear enough. And this is another reason why we're doing this project, not the natural fear of a tiger. You see it, you run, obviously, but psychological fear and all the little illusions and stories and confusions we create to get us into one mess after another. So what would you like to talk about now regarding your experience?
I was just going to say that I thought that the law of attraction was really helping me. I thought that was really the way to go. And then I came to that that's just, like you said, fear. You're fearful of thinking negative thoughts. It's just not, it doesn't help anything. You can think positive, 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 but it's only because you're afraid of thinking negative. So it's like, it just keeps you in this polarity trap that just, you can never get out of. So I don't think that the law of attraction helps. I don't think that her teachings actually helped. I think they did more confusion and more damage than anything in the long run. So
and that's the thing.
whatever.
All the New Age speakers are all promoting the same stuff. They're all regurgitating the same stuff, and they're not seeing the dangers of it, the passiveness of it. We have a girl who we work with who was using the law of attraction and positive thinking in a very serious situation, and because she was just being positive and visualizing the outcome, her children ended up being taken away, and it's because she's following these stupid things. So, I mean, the EOF is all about exposing this constantly, and wow, does it upset people. And I'm sorry, I interrupted you again. There's a bit of a lag with Skype, so I try not to.
We kind of talk about the cult concepts as far as like the alien thing goes. Just her kind of hold there. You think that you're part of this alien group, so of course you're this own little world. And she talks to you about these different concepts and all these different versions of you, and she talks about your connections, and it kind of starts to make you feel a little loopy, but you listen to her. And one night, in particular, really kind of disturbed me was, it's kind of difficult to even talk about this, but
Try.
It was when Fallon had these like facial twitches. He would do like tics and things. He had like just facial tics, and his eyes would kind of do some things sometimes. And he always had it, but she had explained it away as being first of all, she told us he was a reptilian, like a rogue reptilian that was here to kind of show that humans were not all bad, and he had decided to work with her, and he was like contracted to work with her.
Convenient, and another worker bee.
And then she's saying that the reason why you would have these glitches and things is because, or twitches and things, was because it was a glitch in his holographic soul projection, and he was kind of like not completely phased. So there was that, and he's sitting at the table next to me, and I'm kind of, I have all these ideas in my head about reptilians as it is because of David Icke and all the rest of it, so I'm kind of like on the fence about that.
Yeah.
And then she goes to tell me about how he was responsible for my abduction, like alien abductions from the gray aliens when I was younger, and many times after that. And not only that, but he was responsible for my getting abducted by reptilians as well. And I'm just kind of like shocked that she would even say that, because I always, I've watched X-Files. I always thought there was UFOs. I always knew there were aliens, but then now she's confirming that, okay, yes, that did happen to you, and not only that, but it was the Greys and the reptilians, and the guy who's responsible is here sitting next to you at the table. And it's just like going, okay. I'm just kind of like in shock, kind of like, is this really happening? Are we having this conversation right now? And Fallon's like totally into it, like totally playing along with this, and I'm just starting to kind of get concerned. And she kind of goes into explicit details. First somebody asked me about these abductions. Like, I don't know. I can't remember. I don't remember anything. I don't even know about that. And she's like, oh no, you did, and it screwed up your life. And she's going on and telling me all of these explicit details about what they did to me and taking my genetic materials and, all of this horrible, horrible stuff, and telling me that that's the reason why my life is completely messed up. And she's saying that I'm a prime match for infertility now because of it all. And basically saying across from Fallon, okay, Fallon, this is what she said. This is explicit language, but she said, this is the fucktard who's responsible for completely fucking over your life. And she says, go ahead, Fallon. Why don't you apologize to her? Why don't you apologize to this? This is your fault. And he's like, I'm horrified. And he's sitting there, like his eyes are crossing, he's doing this, like, he's freaking me out. I'm thinking he's a reptilian. I'm scared to death. And she's like, it was so mind warping. I'm laughing because it sounds absolutely ridiculous. But when you're sitting there with this lady who's supposed to be like a spiritual catalyst and supposed to have her shit together, and she's telling you all of this, and you kind of don't have any point of reference for it, and all these people are playing along, and you've got Fallon looking confused but genuinely sorry and like trying to apologize for something like horrific. And it felt like she was implanting these memories too, because I walked away from that in that situation. This was after like a shadow house like series or some sort of shadow work that we'd done, and I walk away from this situation just like not knowing what came from me and what was told to me. So it felt very odd, and I've seen her do that on a couple of occasions too. She did it once with Justin, who was another shadow house member. He came and he came from Texas. He drove up to her Santa Fe workshop. He came to live with her after Santa Fe workshop, and he suspected that he'd been abducted. And I didn't really want to go into what had happened to me, because he wasn't there at that time. So I let it go. And Teal had mentioned behind the scenes that yes, he has been abducted, and he's the reason why you guys are all matched to each other. Do you really think you would all be here if you weren't connected? And she's trying to tell us that we were all connected because we were all Fallon's little abductees. Like all of his grays had abducted all of us. And there's going to be thousands more, like 6,000 more that are going to be coming through there that have been abducted by his grays as part of this experiment to prove that humans are worth saving. And I'm like, I didn't get that. I don't understand how that's going to pan out for you, but okay.
Karma, punishment, guilt, all these kind of things. Great tools for manipulation, and all of them are hoaxes. All are invented by religions and spirituality to keep people in a bubble and controlled by these beliefs and ideas. And somebody who's a cult leader is able to speak very, very fast to confuse and spin tales and to make people convinced of it. So Fallon was clearly convinced of it, to the point that you said he was waking up in the middle of the night screaming with cold sweats, feeling totally traumatized by these fake memories, because she's lying about so many things, and she's just playing everybody like puppets, enjoying, and she seemed to be getting a pleasure from this too, you were saying.
I don't know what she gets out of it besides some sort of like, she likes playing chess with people, is what she expressed to me at one point, that she was programmed to play chess with them because of her cults. Can you see okay? It seems like things just got dim.
It did, but it looks fine on the camera. You just look quite red, that's all. The screen is red. Yeah, oh wow, that's much better. I should have suggested that earlier, as you look like you're red in a red Klingon room or something, but okay.
Oh no!
It's okay. It's all a part of the raw, organic feel of the video.
Oh my gosh. This is getting kind of weird. We're going down a weird road here.
But I still think people really need to know this and make an informed decision before they follow any more.
It's really hard to tell this with a straight face now, because I can't believe the ridiculousness of what we were all falling for. But she said it with such certainty. She's like so sure when she says things. She doesn't hesitate. When you're around somebody like you say that speaks fast, doesn't hesitate, seems to pull. It's not like she has to think about this information. It's like boom, she has like a connection for all of it, and it's like tough to be around that and not start to question. Okay, maybe I'm the one that doesn't know what's up. Maybe this person does have access to information I don't have.
Because people are saying, oh, she has a super memory kind of a thing. She remembers everything. And it just seems like maybe she just tries to remember what she reads in great detail so that she can try to recreate these memories and stories within people to make them think that this is what happened to them. And even for her to convince people that she's telling the truth as well.
Well, yes. I wouldn't say that she wasn't telling the truth, except for there's evidence later that she's been lying. It's very difficult to prove a lot of these things, but there was times when she would say, what Fallon had been, for instance, molested and raped by his father and grandfather in a Mormon church, and that was sort of like an implanted memory sort of thing for Fallon, and that's what he was saying. He was waking up with cold sweats, and she was saying, Justin had also been abducted, and Justin was upstairs one day screaming bloody murder, and I almost thought we would have to call 911 because I thought they were killing him. Like, I really thought they were murdering him upstairs. It was awful. And when he was in the house, and, he's throwing things, he threw something and almost broke a glass window because Teal was explicitly walking him through some sort of abduction scenario where him and his sister were being abducted, and spikes were going through his body, and he was getting horribly sodomized by Grays, and just strange stuff. Like, and he believes this now, and this is like, he was traumatized, and it's like, these memories are just as bad, or these implants that she does with these explicit details, I feel, are just as bad as memories sometimes, and I don't think that they happen. Like, I don't think that happened to Justin. I'm not going to say I know, but I don't think that happened. But I know Fallon said that didn't happen to him. And I also know of another person who she had convinced had endured satanic abuse like she did. And she sent her to a therapist to have her memories uncovered. And this turned out to be not true as well. So these things that she convinces people of, and these repressed memories that she claims people have, I feel are more along the lines of implants.
Traumatic, strange, torturous memories.
Very, very strange.
Implants. Memories. Regarding Jared or Fallon, is just this, what I heard from what he shared from his story, just a little bit of it, that when he was in the house, he actually wasn't interested in being with Teal at all. And I guess because Teal is used to pursuing so many people that if they're not interested in her, that she really, from what you've also shared with me too, and confirmed that or maybe I'll let you share it, because I think you know what I'm getting at, the story of how they ended up getting together. Like, she convinced him that they were soulmates, and that's the only reason why he relented and decided to get into a relationship. But I think because he was struggling with something before that he didn't even want to go there. But why I brought this up was the manipulation that people use in the soulmate story to get them to basically do what you want and create this idea that, oh, but what if? No, we're meant to be. It has to happen this way, And what are your thoughts on that story? And
yeah, definitely manipulation. There's a manipulative angle to all of these stories. I mean, if you look at Justin, I mean, even like if you look at the stories that she was telling me about being abducted, after that she claimed that I was because I'm working with her, I'm granted amnesty for being further abducted. Mm-hmm. So there's a hook right there. I mean, there's always a manipulative angle to why she would tell you something. So, I mean, that's what I found with her. It's like, well, what purpose would that serve me? Well, it makes me a little bit more hesitant to leave if that is true. I don't want to be abducted by Grace because I'm not working with her anymore, It's just that kind of a thing. So with Fallon, same thing. Like, if you're telling him that, telling him that you want him to be a soulmate, then it's a manipulation tactic. So, well, I guess it's meant to be. We might as well go through with this, That's the same thing with Justin. She told him that if he was to leave, because he was planning on leaving right away when he got there, at one point, she told him he was a match to suicide as well, so he ended up sticking around.
I'm going to do a post about how dangerous it is to have the belief of soulmates and twin flames and so forth at some point. What about?
Sorry, I can elaborate on that more.
If you want to, go ahead.
I couldn't. I'm sorry, I couldn't. I don't know too much about that. I never bought into the soulmate twin flame thing. I just don't feel like, I never really was searching for that, and I'd be a weird duck.
Okay, no problem. What about, I hear that you were sharing about Teal seducing people.
She's just like that. I mean, that's just her personality, I guess. She likes to flirt with people, I think. Likes to get a rise out of people, likes to shock them, likes to make them uncomfortable with her sexuality, I feel. I don't know. I mean, there's a point. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty open with talking about things, but there's almost like a preoccupation with her, a preoccupation or obsession concerning it with her. So when it comes down to people that are around her, I mean, it's always some sexual innuendo or some story or something. Like, for her, she described it as she was always in some constant state of foreplay with Fallon. So, I mean, that to me says, I mean, I find it strange that every man that lives in that house is in an intimate relationship with her. I mean, that's like the reverse form of most Mormonism, with what they have down there with the polygamists. So I'm not exactly sure what to make of that. I was told it was what conscious people do, but I guess apparently all the polygamists are conscious. I don't know what that means, but I mean, it comes down to, well, she's not still sleeping with them, but at the same time, there were things that would come up. So I don't know if you really want, like, I don't know how much is important for making the case on this, but I mean, there was an incident with Blake that I found out after I got there, soon after I got there, in fact, that there was stuff going on with him and Teal before she was divorced from her husband, like the last year of their marriage. So for me, I mean, I don't know how conscious that is when you're not telling all the parties involved what's going on. So I don't know. It's just a strange setup there that I was not used to, that over time I got convinced was normal. You get desensitized. I mean, and there's just like things that she says to shock people.
But she was fooling around with pretty much all these different people, and nobody was aware of it. And when someone was aware of it, I think Fallon, he ended up getting very upset, or even like just how she would be so nonchalant about sexuality as well, like where there was
a story there too. It was when she was treating people, because of course clients come to her house for treatments or healings or sessions or whatever happens in the healing room.
Males, of course, yet she couldn't heal her son's broken arm. Just saying.
Yeah. Same thing with her sick cat, Cosmo.
Yeah.
She couldn't heal him either. So it's a touch and go situation, that healing thing. But anyways, there was a situation where I came over and something had happened earlier in the day with the Chinese businessman that had supposedly molested Teal. And Fallon found out about it. She told him nonchalantly about that, and she just supposedly froze, and she claimed that that's just what she's used to, that almost all of her clients had done that at some point. And it's no different than shaking hands with people.
Ew.
And basically he flipped out and said, well, are you kidding me? What's going on here? Like, how can you say that? You know, I have to be in the room with you, or what's going on? Do we need to put cameras in? What's happening? And so she sat down and she explained to us again an excuse as far as why she's so messed up sexually. And she went into this whole spiel about how she was forced into prostitution, and she had been forced into tantra classes at age 9, and she had been forced to do all these horrible things, and was sat on by people in chairs on her sternum and broke her sternum. You know, awful graphic stories about these sadomasochistic porn clubs down in Vegas that she was forced into by her abuser, and that's the reason why she's just so desensitized to having rough sex with people, and that's why her fetishes and all this stuff. And I just was getting sick to my stomach after hearing this, thinking, oh my God, this is awful. And I tried to point out to her, I was like, this is not a normal situation. Have you considered maybe getting like therapy for this? Have you ever been treated for this? Have you ever had any kind of like sex therapy or something to recover from this? She's like, I don't even know what that is. I've never even heard of that. And she kind of brushed off and said, well, I've always been proud of my sexuality, and I don't want anybody to take that away from me.
Do you think maybe she encouraged a lot of her unnecessary sexual attention? Maybe not necessarily forced into this, but willingly went into it, constantly encouraging and provoking others. We're talking about the sexual situations with Teal, or the seduction, mainly not for gossip, but just to, again, it's a huge manipulation tactic of her. A lot of guys look at her videos, and she always tries to play very seductive, trying to seduce everyone. So if you meet her in person, she'll try to, most likely you saw her trying to seduce people, males, females, because she knows.
She had that.
Go.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I'm done.
I don't even know where to begin on that. She just has, I think she used that as an angle, yes, to manipulate Fallon into also kind of incite him, because these were kind of awful scenarios. So she went from moved him from being mad at her for potentially cheating with a client to feeling sorry for her because of all these horrendous things, and then really amping up his anger towards her abuser. So after these stories that she would tell that would shock and appall and make anybody sick, then that's when he really started to look into trying to kill this abuser, for instance. Like, the more that she would tell these awful things, it had the effect of him getting on the internet while we were there and researching the guy, checking to see where he's at, and talking about killing him, in which she actually seemed to like that idea. She didn't seem opposed to it one bit. In fact, I felt like she kind of lit up when he suggested it, just because she felt, maybe excited that somebody would stand up for her and do that for her, since she never felt that her family did. So I mean, this is the kind of thing that she used to kind of manipulate, I think. I don't know about the seduction part, yes, she just does that. That's her shtick. I mean, I don't exactly know how much of it is from legitimate abuse or how much of it is to get the response she wants from people. But yes, I would say everybody in the house pretty much had some strange attraction to her. I was probably the only one that was kind of diametrically opposed there, and that's probably why I left the soonest.
So even Graciela, she would have dreams or fantasies about taking a bullet for Teal, kind of a thing. Just
absolutely.
This is how dangerous it can get. Like, Teal is such an extreme example, but a sad reality that this is actually going on, that people can be so fanatical, so defending of their belief that's not them. We weren't born with these beliefs, but yet we're willing to die for them. They don't even have any idea who Teal is, but yet we're willing to die for her. It's very, very disturbing and shocking, and that they're also willing to kill for her as well. And this abuser probably isn't what she says he is either. He's probably just somebody who she, probably came across that he probably refused to play her game. So you say that when people, again, don't do what she wants, she publicly destroys them to her followers. So, I mean, even the girl Amber, who did the video, Teal Scott Creeps Me Out, she got just a huge wave of just hate mail from all the Tealers and stuff like that, even death threats. So, wow, very love, light, and positivity, great example.
Yeah, that's another thing. Teal would say that she gets death threats, and that's when she would fantasize about, well, I'm gonna, I can do my work, and then I don't care if I die. Somebody's gonna shoot me at one of my workshops, and then Graciela would be like, "Oh my God, but I had a dream. I was throwing myself in front of you, and I took a bullet for you." And it's just, this is the kind of thing she was kind of manipulating these people, like kind of just fantasizing about this is what's going to happen, and it was completely, absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's also no. It's another thing I wanted to add to that is it's just so disturbing too, because we're promoting this stuff as the way, and even with our children now. And I know because I was quoted as a crystal child. However, I never liked that label. I even expressed that in the video that I did, the Project Camelot, and they still didn't care. They still used it, and I couldn't shake it, so I just kept it. And but I always try to explain, okay, no, this is not. But anyway, aside from that, it's disturbing because I see people trying to raise their children on this kind of thinking and belief, and I'm very disturbed to see what kind of a future there's going to be if with the masses constantly promoting to become like this. I'll imagine all the young girls that are watching Teal or thinks I need to be this way. And I know I got on Facebook a mother was really upset with me because she's like, I have my daughter watch Teal and I think she's a positive role model for my daughter. And I'm like, if you want her to be raped, which is really disturbing, but this is what she is encouraging, and this is the thing you read in between the lines. But yeah, I don't want to live in a future like this, where this thinking is, the majority. Your thoughts on that?
I agree. Didn't she do a video saying that girls want guys that have rough sex because otherwise they're going to think that you're weak? I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that one bit, and that's a horrible thing to generalize on some people, because, like you said, the daughters are going to get raped and think that that's love, and think that, pretty soon it turns into Stockholm Syndrome, and this is a sick, twisted abuse that keeps getting propagated, and these are some dangerous ideals that she's putting out there. It's no different than Hitler's catalyst for peace, and suicide. People don't realize that there are very real dangers for taking her advice.
Hey, well, even the guys that watch that, or young boys that watch that, and they think, okay, so I need to be domineering and roughed with a woman during sex, and so that gives a terrible example for them as well. So it's really creating viruses psychologically. However, speaking of Hitler, he has done some videos as well regarding Hitler, but tell me what you've already told me, but
well, it was just the idea that she seemed to be pretty well versed on him, studied him, and she claimed that she had endured Nazi-style mind control. So her abuser was, she said, very familiar with Hitler and his regime. So I mean, that part of it was kind of strange. But then the references that she would make as far as he wasn't bad, he was a catalyst for peace, he caused the most expansion in the universe, basically from the the total polar opposites, from the desires of the people, because of all of the torture and suffering. The desire that was spawned from that was one of the biggest in history. So basically, she was singing his praises and trying to find a revolutionary way to look at him. And I just kind of found it all disturbing. And I just point blank asked her, "What's the deal? Are you and Hitler like friends? Do you hang out in the ethers? What's going on here?" And she didn't like it. She just kind of was like, shook her head at me and left it at that. But it was just, that is the impression that I got. Nobody else seemed to really be overly concerned with it. But there was just some things there that it's odd. It was an odd preoccupation with Hitler.
Very disturbing. So imagine younger generation if Teal had her way with kids singing Hitler's praises and saying, no, that was a positive thing. That was meant to happen for our human awakening, which I don't see any human awakening here. I see signs of human decay and, like you were saying earlier, cognitive dissonance more and more, to the point that not only, is rape encouraged, but if the kids try to tell their parents, or these violence occurs, no, you're not being positive, no, I don't want to hear that, don't tell me that never happened. Like, this just again, very, very disturbing. What I wanted to ask you is about Teal was always trying to get help, but she was going to various therapists and stuff like that, and there was one therapist she went to, which was Barbara Snow, that you said she was singing her praises. And tell us about that and what you discovered.
Yeah, she recommended Barbara Snow to another girl to go to uncover repressed memories of satanic abuse. So that's how I got her name. And then during that conversation, she told us that she had gone and seen her for about 5 years, and that she was this. At first, she just sang her praises. She was soft and sweet like a marshmallow. She knew exactly what she was dealing with when she was treating me. She recognized it right away. She knew she knew all about the programming. She knew all about the satanic rings, and she knew exactly how to help me. And so she went, and she was getting funding from the state for about 5 years, she said, and we saw her regularly during that time. Then she said that Barbara made a mistake, and a huge mistake, according to her, which was approach her about some back payment, and she ended treatment. And then after that, she ended up going and inventing this career as a spiritual catalyst and writing this book and doing whatever else. So I find it odd that she said she quit treatment and then she did that. But in any case, Barbara Snow, basically, I did some Googling on her and did some research. She's been in some legal issues. She's kind of like the fountainhead for satanic abuse and Mormon and satanic abuse in Utah, and she doesn't have a very good reputation either. So I don't know. It's probably. I mean, you can find this information on the internet, but they found out that Barbara she almost lost her license. She took a voluntary suspension because some witnesses in the trial were found to have recovered memories that were implants. And how they found her was the police gave her information that only they had, and then all of a sudden it was fake information. And then all of a sudden these witnesses came forward with these memories of this fake information that the police had given Barbara. So they caught her that way, implanting memories into these witnesses. So that's her reputation, and that's who Teal claimed treated her for 5 years. So I don't know what all that says, but it doesn't seem like somebody was successfully treated. Might have gotten a little more screwed up than when they went in it. But that's just speculation on that part.
And possibly ripped off the stories of all the other patients that Teal might have overheard during that group therapy sessions, so that she could reiterate it to her followers, or use that as fake memory implants.
And she may even believe these memories. Like, she may have made these connections on her own just from the foundation that was laid. Who knows? Like, sometimes you can connect the dots later, and with these implants, like with Fallon even, it gets real. It gets more and more and more real.
Yep.
So who knows? But as far as, like, the treatment, I know she was seeing different therapists. When I was there, just, like, not regularly. Like, I think I drove her to an NLP place at one point for an appointment. So it wasn't like she was going regularly. It was almost like she was just going from therapist to therapist to see what kind of little tools she could get or what she could use for her next teaching. But I don't know exactly what she's being treated, consistently for.
That's a very good point, and this gives a lot of people a lot of information to do their own research and to find out for themselves, and to now they're aware of all the little games and tricks that they can see past it to what's really going on. So thank you so much, Cameron, for doing this. I know it was very challenging, but it'll be very helpful to so many other people, I think. I mean, we need to
all
see.
I can do.
We need to see.
Sorry? Take what they want from it.
Yeah, and we need to see how violent we can be in the name of our beliefs to protect them. How we had the Holy Inquisition, we thought we were being positive and doing God's work and killed and tortured so many people. And now here we are wanting to kill for positivity or spiritual speakers and things like that. We need to see how dangerous it is and what we're giving our mind to, and just start thinking and remembering we weren't born with any of these beliefs. So.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, we have, welcome. All the transcript on my website, so if people want to read more about it, that it's all there. And we'll do a follow-up video to see what to let people know the kind of response, so people can see for themselves. We're not accusing in any way. You can do your research; it's all there. Even if you meet her, a lot of people are able to see it as well. But they are too afraid to speak up, so I'm sure other people will step forward now.
She had convinced all of them to try to whip me into shape or get me in line, basically, by doing these judge your neighbor sheets. And she tried to get all of us to come over, and Justin and I wouldn't come because of the previous Shadow House episode. It was just so awful with the things that she said that we didn't want to put ourselves in another position like that again. So
can you describe a little bit? Sorry if I interrupt for a sec, but can you describe to people what Judge Your Neighbor is, what it consists of?
Basically, you take a sheet and you write down what problem you have and what you don't like about somebody, and then you go through the steps of asking these questions, and you can find it on Byron Katie's site if you're really interested. I don't really want to promote it, but
we're not promoting it. We're just getting people familiar again with one of the patterns that they use to counteract when people try to challenge them, because you said they use judge your neighbor tactics, and she uses it too. So it's just for people to know and understand.
Basically, it asks questions about what would you change about that person, what do you want that person to do differently, or what is it, I mean, I can't remember, I've tried to block it out, but basically what you do at the end is turn it back around on yourself at the very end. And so she had everybody do that with the guise of really trying to get to the bottom of things. Okay, the judge your neighbor sheets that she had us do on the last episode of Shadow House were kind of like, in this situation, time and location, who angers, confuses, or disappoints you, and why is the question. And so she had everybody do this on me, on something that they didn't like about me. She convinced all of them to do a sheet. So they were all doing it on me, and then I was supposed to answer all of them before this night was over. So I was supposed to respond back to them, do a sheet on every single person that did one on me, while all of them only had to do it on one person. I was supposed to do it on all of them. So I was like exhausted and tired by the end of that. And then on top of it, she was completely railing on me to her followers with like why I don't get things, and I'm always going back to square one, and I'm completely spiritually unevolved, and she feels like she's taking crazy pills and just being overly dramatic so she can chip away and get the followers to join in with her and completely discredit me before I leave, so that anything I say, they're going to look at me like, wow, she's just causing problems for Teal, she's awful, she's this, she's that. You know, basically, you've seen the army. They pretty much start attacking you, basically.
Yep.
So that's what she was basically sticking her followers on me on the last episode. And I didn't even want to be in that episode, but she had basically, I don't want to say extorted, but it felt like extortion. She was just saying, you know, we're all going to talk about her, so she may as well be on it. And she was texting Blake, and she got Blake to get him to try to convince me. And it was a back and forth deal. And Justin had drove us over there, and he refused. And he was smart for not doing it, but he refused at the time. And I was like, fine, if this is how, and Flavia came out finally at the end, and she's like, Cameron, I'm not going to do it if they're going to talk about you without you being there. So, you know, if you don't want to do it, that's I mean, she's like, oh, I'm not going to do it either. And she's like, but I really want you to come in, and I think we can work through this. And so she finally convinced me to come in. And yeah, it wasn't good. So as far as that goes, I just asked to be no more shadow houses during that episode. I said, I'm done. And they enacted some sort of fake adoption. Like, well, fine, then you're going to be adopted out, basically cast out. You're the first one voted off the island, so now you can leave. You don't have to be on shadow house anymore. So that was fine. And I was over at the apartment. So then it's kind of an ostracization type of deal. So where I'm isolated and everybody else is going back and forth and they're talking and everybody's doing their thing. So it was sort of like a cult purge, basically, is what it was. And I was okay with it, but I still had a lease and I was still kind of like uncomfortable being around everybody that was completely obsessed with Teal. There was like no getting away from it. I was like when they weren't at our house, Graciela would be staring at her picture. And they'd be like editing her videos, or they would all be like around watching her videos on like the computer, or listening to some sort of workshop she was doing. So it was just nonstop. So I was really ready to be done at that point. Well, it didn't bother me as much as it would some other people. I'm sure it would destroy other people if they were like really, really invested and didn't know what was going on. It could have definitely made people feel really, really terrible about themselves. And that's part of what she does, too. When you leave her circle, she makes you feel like you're crazy. She makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. Like, you're the one that has all these problems. You're the crazy one. Like she did with Fallon. He's a psychopath. Like she did with another girl. You know, she's just jealous. She's crazy. You know, she wants my fame. Or she did, like, with me, she was trying to tell me, well, you just can't handle it here because you have so many mommy-daddy issues, and you have a personality disorder that I'm going to diagnose because I'm qualified and my name is Teal, basically, is what happened.
Of course.
So she feels like, felt like she was qualified to tell me all of these problems. And, you know, I did not take anything that she said seriously, but I tried to just placate her at the time. But I see now somebody else could have been probably twisted into her mind games and wanted to protect her and felt like they weren't good enough. Like, I know Fallon feels. He feels like he failed. He wasn't good enough, and he knows it's messed up, but at the same point he protects it by not wanting to. He feels like he deserves it, basically.
I mean, she thinks that she can give this kind of advice, and she can't even manage her own life. Her own life is a mess. Her own mind is a mess, and she just seems to make everybody else seem they're even more of a mess so that people don't see it. And this thing about Illuminati I want to go into as well, because I really think that the people are giving the Illuminati more credit than, I just think it's a Wizard of Oz thing. I'm not saying the Illuminati doesn't exist, they do, but I think because this information, so many people are reading about David Icke, they're so paranoid that everything is Illuminati or reptilian. They can watch a video and a slight pixelation, oh, they're shapeshifting and all these things, and it's gotten really carried away to the point that everybody is judging everybody as Illuminati, and sometimes a person is just psychotic and happens to have followers, and other times they're just a scam or a fraud, or they're just a confabulator, or just all these different things that not necessarily Illuminati and MK Ultra all the time. And I mean, once you investigated a bit more in that, you're like, this is kind of a laughable fear as well that I had that was preventing me from speaking up about it. This is another way we kind of let this stuff continue to happen, or to sit this long you did without talking to anybody, because oh my gosh, who's gonna consider this?
Well, yeah, and it was like not helping the fact that there are people in the spiritual community that are aware of the fact that this person may not be on the up and up, and they are claiming to know what they're all about, and that they are not promoting they're not promoting for the light, should you say, but they don't say anything publicly. They'll just tell you, for instance, in a reading, which further confuses and makes you fearful. So that happened to me 3 times, basically 3 different, I had 2 shamans and a well-known psychic tell me that, one told me she was dark Leviathan entities that they were prostituting her body, and she knows Teal, she's met Teal. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't say anything publicly, but yet she's going to do a reading for me and tell me this in private. I'm like, hey, well, you know her, and you were at an event with her, and basically had hosted her at your event, and yet you're telling me this and you're not saying anything. So it had me scared. Like, if they're not speaking out, then I shouldn't be either, because I don't know. What are they going to do to me? If it's dark reptilian Leviathan energy, I don't want to play with it. I don't want to make myself a target. So yeah, it absolutely keeps the system in place, like you're saying. It just adds to the whole, I don't know, destructive, abusive cycle, I guess.
But the psychics are also operating through a belief system as well, the evil. And remember, a belief system always needs an opposite. So there's the evil for the Christianity, Satan, and so forth, and then there is for the New Age or the Illuminati, it is their enemy that they fight against, and it keeps this perfect polarization, never bothering to inquire past it. It's the perfect kind of a block to not think, because of this idea, this belief system that was not even ours, it was given to us.
Exactly. That's a good point. That's what really helped me snap out of it, when you were starting to point out the holes and the ridiculousness of all of that. That had a big hold on you. I mean, my parents were even wondering about it. They're like, don't make yourself a target. If this is bigger than you think, then look what could happen to your life. And so there was a lot of reasons to be quiet about this. And so there's that, and then the crazy Tealers, of course. There's no point railing against the army if you're the only person. So
what do you want to say about the Tealers?
What do you want to say about the Tealers? I mean, I'm sure we'll have more to say later, but I've seen them operate very, very much so. They very, very rarely comment on the content of things, more like they pick apart at your insecurities or pick apart at obvious things that might...
Yeah, like the Amber video, they just picked apart her looks. They didn't have anything to actually intelligently respond to or consider at all. So, and these are like people who follow beliefs or are following Teal. They're not stupid people. Again, this is not like something you're born with. This is something that we are allowing to happen. We're talking about conspiracies all the time, and David Icke all the time, but I'm sorry, we're a conspiracy in our own mind when we let these belief systems in. When we let them think for us and make us be paranoid and assume all these things, and we just barricade ourselves in psychologically.
Yeah, and that was another thing I noticed, is that it's not only that Tealers do that, but Teal does that as well. I've noticed in her personal life, she will take apart at people's insecurities, kind of, and break them down to where they think they need her.
Yeah.
And then that's basically how they keep they coming back for her beliefs and her drugs. So I think she's also kind of projecting her own brand of crazy onto people with like generalizing her life as normal, because people don't understand she's very psychologically damaged. I mean, just what even if you take for what she says in her blogs through about having 12 personalities and borderline personality disorder and seizures all the time, triggered seizures, where she supposedly can't even be alone with her son. I mean, if you just take it to that account, people are still willing to follow this person and their model of what life should be like. It's kind of a scary prospect. I mean, I don't know. I've noticed that it's been a big deal with like her, people feeling sorry for her and liking the fact that she's being real and being honest, but then she'll generalize things to where it's supposedly normal for everybody. Well, I don't know how normal any of this stuff is for anyone. Like talking about getting traumatized because your mom makes you get juice when you're 2. I don't know who remembers when they're 2. I don't know what is normal. Like what she talked about being like average or normal doesn't seem to fit any bill, but people are eating this up as something to follow. So I don't know. It's just things to consider. And then I forgot what I was going to say about her. Go ahead. Sorry, I forgot.
No, I was just going to add that what you sent me about cults, it shows like exactly that the person who runs the cult, they make you think you need them, that you can't think without them, that you're dependent off of them, that they saved you, that they helped you. This is what really bothers me, is people are like defending her because they said she has helped me. But has she really helped you, or has she just given you some more spiritual drugs to numb the pain rather than inquire really into the root, or why you're searching to begin with, or why you care to begin with? You got to start somewhere. and it just seems like we refuse to go there. We make it so scary and so bad, but when we explore it, it's not so much what we thought it was at all. Like you're noticing as well, the more you're entering that, you're like, wow, is that really? Because I was avoiding that, I ended up in this.
Exactly. And you just keep searching for the next thing. That's the problem, is when you go from one teacher to the next teacher, you just keep taking more beliefs, but they're never your beliefs. You're still taking somebody else's. So it's just like you said, just one drug to the next, to the next, to the next. And you think that they're helping you, but really they're very damaging. Like it just keeps the cycles in place. It doesn't change anything. It numbs you to making a difference or making a change, or like you said, inquiring further.
And
it's frustrating.
And you went into like Franco Di Nicola after this, and of course he's not like Teal, but he still is promoting the ascension and the soulmates and all these things. So that's still very dangerous to people. You know, they still can be very easily manipulated by this. They can be living off of the opium of hope, waiting for something to happen, and living in this projected idea of what they would like to happen or what this person told them will happen, rather than reality and watching and observing what's going on in their own mind, giving themselves away to another belief system. And this is what people have a big problem with, that all belief systems, all these people, whether they're, you know, aware they're a scam or not, or they just convince themselves of the beliefs, like I did, thinking I was doing good and I was helping, only to find out it was doing more damage than good. And that if I had to be able to not only admit this to myself, but admit this to all the people who were following me, so they as well could see, like, I think if you're claimed to be a spiritual speaker and you have followers, you have a responsibility.
That was pretty brave of you. I agree.
I didn't see any other way. There was no way I could continue on living, realizing this and staying silent, or pretending I didn't hear it and still riding the gravy train and getting all this consensus. It's counterfeit and it's fake, and I didn't want to continue to encourage this train wreck just because it wasn't convenient for me, just because I couldn't live that way. Like, it was challenging because aside from work, it was your identity. You've conditioned yourself that that's how you are. That's how, you know, so that was the tricky part for me, is to, okay, I can understand that's not what I am, but how you are able to live with yourself and your thoughts as this stuff constantly comes up, because we brainwash and condition ourselves to our beliefs over and over, our own private mantras we tell ourselves, and so that was the more challenging part. And so I knew that I had to share it with people, no matter how unpleasant it was going to be or what people were going to think. And I made sure to share a blog so that everybody could see the process and also to find out for themselves as well, if they really want to.
That was the reason why I talked to you. I could tell it's a very, very difficult process, and people aren't going to like it, but it's definitely necessary. And it's like you're kind of revolutionary in that area, and I'm excited to see where it goes, because I do think it's a hoax. I think the New Age arena is a hoax. I think a lot of these things, these damaging beliefs, are keeping us stuck, and they're keeping us numb, and they're keeping us just as asleep as the old religions are doing. So the old belief systems haven't done us any service. So, I mean, it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal.
And nothing ever changes. I mean, generation after generation, we're saying now is the time, now is the time. We're shifting, we're waiting forever for something to happen. That's never going to happen. The same thing, people are waiting for the ascension, people are waiting for Christ, people are waiting for the paradise, all the while being conned and tricked out of their own life, their own mind, and their own time, because of this constant psychological projection of the future, or the reward, if you will. So
I agree.